I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
Here we are, dude. We're all up in it.
Hey, we did
Yo.
it, Joe.
We did.
We did it.
Yeah. So this has been
Wild.
fun. First off, it's episode 150.
It's episode 150,
yeah.
fittingly fitty.
Yeah.
Dude, do you remember like where politics was when we started this podcast?
So this was in 2021 when we first started.
2021. Yeah.
So it was during the pandemic because I remember it was like that
Yeah.
was kind of like because you and I were much more active online. I think because everyone was locked inside for stupid reasons. So this is 2020. So this is right after
summer
Biden.
2021.
Yep.
So it wasn't.
Biden-
I don't think it was the height of craziness, but it was up there. Like it had not really subsided.
Yeah.
For I'd say another 6 months to a year where it started to like somewhat come down.
Right.
It's hard to remember that exactly, but we are a very different political landscape today.
Yeah. And I remember when you because that was the first time you came to LA. It was in November of that year.
Yeah. You guys are still like masking up outside, and
yeah,
it was a little crazy.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was during that stupid awkward time where it's like we're kind of open, but we're kind of not. Like, when you first walk into a restaurant, you have to have a mask. When we sit down, you can take it off.
Yeah, it was that bold. It was just the most typical. Like, it was just compliance.
Yes,
it had nothing to do with science, but compliance. But we're past that now.
Yeah,
and now, dude. So let's just get into some. So usually we don't like this like straight political episodes. We do like to talk about the culture around politics because as Andrew Breitbart said very accurately, is it politics is downstream from culture?
Yes.
And I like where the stream is headed.
Yeah.
So we both live in I'm gonna put an asterisk on to say blue states. Politico published an article today that said New Jersey could be a swing state. Which is pretty wild. And we're going to get into specifics. Let's start with California, though.
Yeah.
Because
do you want to say, so did you vote for like president? Did you vote?
Yeah, I voted for Trump.
Okay. I was going to say, hey, let's on the count of three. Let's both say who we voted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's start from California.
And to be honest, like I know people might hear that and freak out. And I mean, well, he won the popular vote, and not that should even matter, but he won by a lot.
Yeah,
he's
won like 4 or 5 million votes, I think.
Yeah, it's still being tallied, but he's probably going to win by at least 4.5 points to 5 points, which is not like that's a lot kind of for a modern election. I think Biden won about that, maybe a little less, but especially for a Republican who hasn't won the popular vote in a general election in 20 years.
Yeah.
And that happened. That was like George Bush still riding the 9/11 and like initial invasion of Iraq, which was very popular at the time. It became the exact opposite a couple of years later, but it was very popular at the time. So, he won. I think, the stats will come out differently. You'll see some from here, some from there. But here's what I'm going to say. Here's a joke. What do Muslims and Jews have in common, Joe? They both voted for Donald Trump. And like he won. He came in first, so there was no majority in Dearborn, which is always known as the most, I think, Muslim place in America. But he won a plurality, and Kamala Harris came in third. Jill Stein came in second. So Trump won. I'm not even kidding. Yeah. So Donald Trump won a plurality of Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan. He won. He did better. And I was saying this in 2020. I was kind of sounding the alarm from like the left side, like, hey, you guys better cut this shit out. I mean, I don't know why I was kind of leaving that side by then, but like he did better with every, and it's hard to slice up demographics because there's so many different ways to do it: race, religion, gender, sexuality, education, income, all that stuff. But he was doing better with like kind of all the racial and religious ones. He also did better. He won white women. He won like, I saw something, he won like 2/3 of the most untouchable group in this country, and that's Native Americans. Like, that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some states I saw he won like 60% of Latinos in Michigan. He
Yep.
won 35% of black men in Texas. It's a third. What I tell people is like, you wouldn't think 1/3 of black men in Texas are voting for Trump, and they are. So like, he won Miami-Dade County. In fact, and I think this changed a little. So CNN showed this, and then we'll get into more specifics. So CNN showed this, and I think it changed a little. So this isn't exactly accurate anymore. But John King, who I like a lot, actually, out of the 3 networks on election nights, I watch CNN the most. I basically was flipping through that. I do a little MSNBC and a little Fox just to mix it up. But I basically do CNN, and then I do breaking points on their live stream. And John King, who's like their map guy, who I like a lot, he pulled up a map with Jake Tapper, and this has been going viral, where it shows every county where Kamala Harris did better than Joe Biden. This election. You know how many counties it was?
0.
Yes.
0. I was going to bring that up.
Now I think that changed a little, where there's like a handful, but 0 counties at the time. And in fact, there's a rightward shift in 49 states out of 50. You want to guess what the one is?
California?
No, dude. California was number 1 in shift.
Okay, good.
That's what I'm going to talk about. It's one of your neighbors, though, sort of, Washington. Washington's just being crazy up there. But California was number 1. It shifted to the right 12 points.
Interesting. I actually just saw a map, and I think it just went out today because it just started kind of getting passed around on Twitter more today, of like red districts, of districts that went from blue to red, and it was like a sizable increase. I didn't know it was that big.
Yeah, it was that, but no, California is still so entrenched blue. And when you look, I was actually gonna bring this up before. When you look at like the West Coast, you actually we always kind of lump California, Oregon, and Washington together. Yeah. But Oregon actually like isn't as blue as people think.
Right.
It's a blue state, but it could shift. Where Washington, like even California, I think Trump won like 40%, which is a lot for California. And that's with this seismic shift. But like Oregon is one of those states that like it can, and Oregon, I know demographically, you go to some parts of Oregon, it's like, and I don't mean this in a good way, it's like neo-Nazi country. So like we don't like them either. They suck. But I mean, there are some like really like white supremacy types in Oregon, where Washington just feels like it's going the other direction. They're just doing their own thing. And California feels like it's going in the right direction. I think a lot of that has to do with particularly Latinos and Asians in California. Especially in places like LA and San Francisco. So let's talk California. Did you vote in this election?
I did. And this is the first time I actually, I called my mom today, and both my parents, they're like old school liberal, but that makes them like pretty middle of the road. They're like all of their views would have been considered liberal up until like 2012. Like they're like sort of so they're pretty like old school liberal. But anyway, I think they're registered Democrats, but they're not really dedicated. My mom voted for Kamala Harris, but even then she was like, she, like I don't like Kamala Harris. I just hate her a little bit less than I hate Trump. And so I voted for Trump because even though I knew that California was going to Trump, going to Harris, but for me it was more I'm not like a hardcore MAGA guy at all, and I have plenty of criticism of Trump, but I'm also like, for me it was largely a protest vote. I wanted to add to the numbers of Latinos who voted for Trump because I wanted to. So I read this article, and I'm going to write a follow up to it. I wrote an article in 2020 about all of like the media's disdain, especially from non-Hispanic commentators and pundits who are just talking down to us.
Dude, there's been some crazy shit where it's kind of turning into. I love that meme. It comes up a lot. Usually it's against Black people, but it's also against Latinos, where it has Ed Norton, and he's like it's like a 4 frame. It's like in the top left, it starts as him, and I think what's that movie? Oh fuck, that like law movie where he I'm gonna spoil it, where like he gets off, but he's actually the murderer. You know what I'm talking about?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's like that. He's like real boyish looking. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's kind of got like a stutter and like a Kentucky accent. He's like real, and he's actually has like a dual personality type thing. And
Right.
it shows him shifting from that to Derek Vineyard from American History X. And it's like liberals when black people tell them they're supporting Trump, but like now it's Latino. It's like Latino, and it turns into like a boyish nice guy to like a skinhead. Like what they say is true. It's like you just hear them, and there are people being like, first of all, what's so fucking telling about these liberals, and where it's like, oh, so all these people are voting to like get deported. It's like, are you saying that all Latinos are here illegally? Because like some of them have been here longer than America has been America. Right. Like especially in parts of the Southwest, like California, New Mexico, and shit. Like, did you really think all Latinos are not citizens? Like, that's a bizarre thing to say.
And also, it's like, you know, I have, you know, especially back up in the Bay Area where I'm from, like I have a lot of friends and family who came here legally, who are legal immigrants, who are like, you know, I had to go through the process, and it took months, if not years, to do it. And I don't like the idea of people just coming here illegally and getting benefits from free benefits. And like, you know, like I of course I have plenty of compassion for like asylum seekers and whatnot, but you know, at the same time, like we need to have
legitimate ones.
Absolutely
Legitimate ones, but a lot of it's just used. It's just a loophole. That's why you'll have like buses of Middle Eastern men who are asylum seekers, and they say they're gay, and they'll get prosecuted in their country. Like you're not all gay.
Right.
Like, and it sucks for the ones who actually are seeking asylum because they'll be killed in their country. But like they're all just saying that, and basically, I'm not going to get into our asylum system. It's very shitty. It's actually one of the main reasons I voted for Trump. Is for this, and it's like, and you see a perfect example of this is I forget who it is on The View, or maybe it was a guest, but someone who was like reasonable. And they're talking about South Texas and how South Texas has shifted to Trump, where it was like Hillary was winning these counties by like 60 points and Trump is now winning them by like 7, 8, maybe double-digit points. And these are like 95% Latino counties. And Sonny Hostin's just like, misogyny.
I know, exactly.
She's like, no, it's because of the border. It's like they don't want just random people running through their property, committing crimes. It's like those people are entrenched there. A lot of them are like Tejanos, or even if they are, recent immigrants, they're there legally or whatever it is. Like, no, it's not misogyny. It's order. People like order with the border. Like it's one of those things that any country should have that sovereignty. And I don't know why there's a segment of our population that I hope is shrinking that's just like, oh no, it's okay. It's like, oh, they'll build houses. It's like, that's also fucking racist and shitty. And, you know, if the market isn't going to allow for houses to be built because you can't get, you know, below minimum wage labor or whatever it is, then maybe the cost of houses should be different. Like, that's not how our system should work. That's like saying like, oh, well, cotton went up because we freed the slaves. Like, oh, too bad. It's like, well, maybe you had an inaccurate price because you had free labor this whole time.
Right.
Like, imagine that logic. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like liberals almost become super racist with their logic.
And this is a recent phenomenon too. So you know, I go back and forth on Trump. Sometimes I think, you know, it's like,
he can hang himself sometimes. Like, dude, just fucking be normal. But
but once in a while, he is a damn good troll. Once in a while, he's like, holy shit, that's actually really fucking true. Like, somebody needed to say that. So I remember a while back, so this is during his first presidency. He tweeted a video of Obama. I don't remember exactly when this was. It was 2007, 2008. It was like he was either right before he became president or like in the early days of his presidency. But it was Obama saying, you know, it's very important for us to protect the border, you know, to protect, you know, the wages of hardworking Americans. And we need to make sure that we know who's coming into this country. And then Trump tweeted that video clip and he said, I agree with Obama. It's like, this is totally acceptable view in Democrats, among Democratic circles.
It's
one of those 10 years ago or whatever.
It's one of those views that became so tainted because identity politics in the early 2010s started to, and some people like me will say this was purposeful by, you know, that's why you have big banks and hedge funds and corporations doing all this identity politics shit, because it kind of, shielded them from Occupy movement type stuff. And that's why, and then so much of the identity politics kind of became ingrained in the Democratic side. And then especially with Trump, it was accelerated where it's like, well, we just have to we have to be against whatever Trump believes. So if he's hard on the border, we have to be like as liberal on the border as possible. And this was a losing maneuver. And for many years, Democrats were very reasonable on the border. In fact,
Bernie Sanders, wasn't he like in favor of like strong borders
and that's exactly what I'm getting to.
Class?
Yes, exactly. That's just exactly what I was about to say. There is a labor argument, which I'm the most sympathetic to, the labor side of the Democrats, which honestly now doesn't really exist anymore all that much. Or it's
been crowded out.
Yes, it's this idea that yes, if you bring in cheap labor, it undercuts the wages and it gives the boss class, the contracting, whatever, the corporate class, higher profits while undercutting the workers. This is like leftist shit. This is like socialist, communist type stuff. And yes, real like left-wing people, real labor people will admit that. We'll say that. In fact, I bring up New Orleans because I lived there, so I learned a lot about it. And it was like black fishermen and shrimpers and oystermen and all that were really pissed off when New Orleans imported a bunch of Vietnamese refugees because they were taking the jobs. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we had these jobs for generations. We finally like have, this is the deep South. And I want to say like New Orleans, South Louisiana, and we have this respect and we've done this. And then you import all of these, and they were, New Orleans like them, they were Catholic refugees. So they brought them in, and a lot of black fishermen were pissed off about it. And people just kind of don't bother with that. Well, because it's, intersectional or whatever. It's, well, they're black, so they can't be saying, no, that was a bunch of white guys. You'd be calling them racists. And so there was always that like reasonable labor side to it. And now I'm like, that just won. So let's get back to this election. Yeah. Every state except for one shifted to the right. And of course, at least I have to find the list again. I know the top three, unsurprising to me, one was California, two was New York, three was New Jersey. Yeah. Now, California is so blue that Trump, I think it's impressive he won 40%. But people look at that and go, oh, well, that's, what's it? Like Trump wins Arkansas by more than that. Like the Democrats are winning 36% of Arkansas. You can tell me that Arkansas is more red than California's blue. Like that, that would surprise a lot of people. Right. Yeah. New Jersey, my state, I predicted that Trump would do really well in New Jersey. I said 46%, and maybe I was being a little bullish. And I did fill out a map before, and I almost hedged a little. I did hedge a little, and I shouldn't have. I had Trump winning 6 of the 7 swing states, not Wisconsin. My thought there was that it's actually whiter, and Trump has, if he's lost anything, it's been with white voters. Yeah, and I thought it'd be close, but I should have just stuck to that. And I thought New Jersey. The last George Bush won 46% New Jersey in 2004. I was like, it's going to be right around that. Right now, if I pull it up, Trump has 46.4% of New Jersey. Now, I want to real quick, so let me go to Minnesota. You know what Minnesota is? 46.8. No one thinks of New Jersey as a swing state. Right. Everyone thinks of Minnesota as a swing state, even though it hasn't gone blue in the longest of any state in the country. Right. Or hasn't gone red. Yeah. A lot of people talk about Minnesota as a swing state. Let's go to Virginia. 46.6. So Virginia, which people were saying could go red this election, was 0.2% higher than New Jersey. Which is wild. My county where I live shifted red for the first time in a general election since 1988. Oh, wow. Trump won Passaic County, which to me was crazier than my county, than Atlanta County. I was shocked because Passaic County has a bunch of like wealthy suburbs. It has like some like some big middle class areas. I'm like, okay, I see him win that. It also has Patterson, which one of its nicknames is Little Ramallah, which has that big of a Palestinian population, an Arab American, and Latino, and he won Passaic County. That's crazy to someone like me from North Jersey. Right. Morris County makes sense. That's a swing district. That's like the epitome of upper middle class to wealthy suburban New Jersey. That actually swung just like my county did in the governor election of 3 years ago, even though Chatterelli lost by a couple points. But I mean, it is wild to me that he flipped Passaic County. So anyway, we were going to talk about California first, but that's New Jersey talk. I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me. I would not be surprised. Oh, and last one I want to see
Yeah.
quick. Oh yeah, so New Hampshire, that's a little higher. That's like 48.2. But again, a couple points lower than New Hampshire, like New Jersey, and you know what? And people are like, well, why is Trump doing? Why is he doing rallies in Wildwood? Well, this is why.
Yeah.
Wildwood's extremely Latino, and it's white and Latino, and it's like middle class or lower middle class, and he did really well.
Yeah.
So so California. So tell me about your experience there, because not only are you in California, you're in LA.
Yeah. So I haven't really talked to any of my friends or coworkers yet. I know most of them are pretty progressive, or they just don't really care about that much. So I'm curious to get like a ground floor view of the emotional damage that this election has caused in my friends. Other than my parents, or at least my mom. But even then, like my mom, she even though she doesn't like Trump at all, she was just also kind of like, yeah, I care much more about local politics. I'm like, good mom, I applaud you for that. So, but there were some very good wins for California. So that stupid law that I did not vote on this. I didn't vote, but there's a stupid law where it's like if you shoplift less than $950 worth of goods, or you would not really like it would not count as a felony, which is insane. So you just do like a bunch of smash and grabs at a bunch of different locations, and you would get a slap on the wrist at most. And so luckily we repealed that with the new proposition. So
did you see, like, days before the election, because I guess she votes in California, or maybe she votes in DC now. I don't know how that works when you're the vice president, but she's from California and has lived there for a very long time. And they asked her about this, and she gave a non-answer. And then you look at how this passed with like 80% or something. Yeah,
it was overwhelmingly.
So that just shows you that as much, and I'm gonna say some good things about Kamala Harris, which shocks some people who listen to us regularly, but I will say some good things about her. But that just shows that, like, you're so out of touch with the average, not just American, but the average Californian.
Yeah, the home team.
I want to see. Hold on. Do you remember what this is called? California Proposition.
I think it was 36. The one that just passed that repealed the old one.
Increasing penalties for certain thefts and crime. Okay, so it passed with over 70%. That's a ton. That's well over a super majority. And you can't, as the woman who is trying to become president of the United States, not like governor of California, even the president of the United States, you should come out and say a resounding yes to, I think that's the right one. Yes. A resounding yes to this ballot measure would increase penalties for repeated theft offenses and certain drug crimes, including some involving fentanyl. It would also create a drug court treatment program for people. So it's like you can't. Wait, what is this? California authorizes, what's this? Same-sex marriage ban? Repeal a ban on same-sex marriage.
It had to do with like the language that was in our.
I was gonna say,
charter. It wasn't like. It's remove the exclusive language. It's like, sure, fine, whatever.
Wait, dude, what's this thing about slavery? Hold on.
Oh, that was a prison thing. That was like forced labor for incarcerated.
Okay, so this proposed amendment to California's Constitution would bar slavery in any form and repeal a current provision allowing involuntary servitude as a punishment for crime. So isn't that just prison?
Yeah.
Is it like making prisoners work?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I actually kind of get, and that also was. No, this did not pass. Right. So 55%, this was no. Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I knew. Dude, one thing I love about California politics is your recall. So we're into recalls also, but
we love recalls.
Great. Yes, they do. And I think it's awesome because it's like, it's as direct democracy as like you can get, where so much of democracy now is bullshit, where it's like, well, we want A to happen, right?
Yeah.
But because of how Congress works, if you want A to pass, well, we're going to put B, C, D, E, F, and G in there also. Oh, well, okay, now G is a poison pill, so we can't pass it. It's like, no, recalls are like, is this person out or not? And I really like that about California. And I've like all states, but not all states, but a lot of states have some of it. But California seems like the most robust. Where so you guys can recall everyone, it seems like.
Yeah.
I think New Jersey, I don't think we can recall our DAs, which is like, I think one of the best people to be able to recall.
And real quick about that. So I talked to my mom. Like I come my mom said, and I brought up the advice that you gave me, and I even said, oh, my lawyer friend who lives in New Jersey, he said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was like, he said that the two most important people in local politics are the mayor and district attorney, and my mom's like, oh, that's good to know.
I've said, I think your mayor depends on where you live. I think in like LA, if you live in a big city, your mayor. Yeah. Like I think where I live, my mayor isn't all that important. I say your governor.
Governor, okay.
I think your governor and your DA are your most important politicians. And I don't mean I mean period.
Yeah.
Like more important, that especially since COVID, when people saw the power that governors had during COVID, I think that really opened up a lot of people's eyes. So yes, it's not, I think your governor is more important than the president.
Yeah.
If the president's like sending your child off to war, sure. Right. And I mean today in 2020's politics. Or your mayor, if you live like New York City, or you live in LA, or you live in San Francisco, like, yes, your mayor is huge. I don't know then if I would say is like Gavin Newsom more important than who's your mayor?
In LA?
Yeah.
We got Karen Bass, who sucks.
Karen Bass. Yeah. I almost said Maxine Waters. I know it's not her, she's a congresswoman. Yeah. But
I got half your advice correct. But my mom, she didn't realize she didn't realize how important the DA could be when it comes to like safety.
Yes, which is everything. It's like, is someone who you elect making your life more dangerous?
Right.
It's like that's your DA in many ways. It's like they simply, and so I bring that up because years ago, Chezibudin in San Francisco was recalled. We did a whole episode on don't piss off Chinese parents. And then the DA in your DA lost. It wasn't a recall, right?
No, this is an actual re-election.
Yeah, it was a real, but
by a big margin too, by over 60%. Over 60% voted for the new guy. So
right, exactly. Who I think a lot of times are just like Republicans, but they can't actually run as a Republican. So
he ran as an independent,
an independent, or they're like they switched to Democrat.
At the last minute, like a year before they run.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what happened also in that election where we were in Venice Beach. Remember that guy who we saw his recall signs everywhere, and we're like, this guy's screwed. Like, you pissed off these rich Venice Beach people. And then that woman I looked up, it's like, yeah, she was a Republican a year ago, and now she represents that district or whatever, city council. But I think the mayor of Oakland,
Sheng Tao,
did she get recalled though?
Well, I don't know exactly. So yes, I believe so. I think she's fighting it in some way. So the guy who led the charge is this really cool guy. His name's Seneca Scott, I believe. I follow him on Twitter. He's this black guy from Oakland, but he's also but here's the thing, he's nonpartisan. He's like, I don't care which party, as long as they do a better job of keeping our streets clean and safe. So he really led the charge. He's been calling her out for I've been following him for over a year now, I think, and he's been calling her out.
It is a recall, by the way. It's not just an election. It's being
this is an actual recall.
And
it got quite a bit of support. So I don't know exactly what happens with. I think every city is a little bit different in the way they handle recalls, recall elections and stuff. But she was. There was overwhelming support for the recall. So I think there's just going to be another election at some point soon.
Right.
But from what I understand, she sucks, and she's just again ultra progressive,
awful
woman. And then San Francisco, London Breed.
What happened to her? She lost, right?
She lost. She did something that really pissed me off during COVID. What was it? It was
she was doing. They had these draconian lockdowns,
but she wasn't following them, right?
She wasn't following them, not like Gavin Newsom, like
Stacey Abrams,
Johnson. Like all of them. And she was at a club, listening to some group that was like really popular, probably like the 90s or something. And her line was,
She got lost in the groove or something like that.
feeling the groove or something. It's like, are you? And to their credit, there were people who had like signs up, leaflets or whatever,
Yeah.
Quoting her,
Yeah.
and being like, and I don't know if that was, unfortunately, being San Francisco, that was like, well, then get rid of the lockdowns instead of that's what it should be, and instead it was like, no, you should just follow your own draconian lockdown. So it's
exactly,
it should be
it was
both,
a stupid like throwaway. It was like, oh, I just got caught up in the spirit of the music. It's like, fuck you, people lost their businesses, people died because of you, fuck you and you're stupid, because you just had the groove in the moment,
right?
So I'm glad.
So who did they elect?
I'm not sure. I mean, it could be somebody worse. So,
I don't know. I think people are. I think they're seeing. Oh yeah, it was like the Levi's guy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Daniel Laurie.
I think wasn't he a guy who like was a Republican and then he changed like a year ago, like or something like that, or he was independent, or
no? I think he was. I think they were always pretty big Democrats. Let me see. She hasn't conceded. Very nice. He leads by a lot, though, by like 12 points.
It's funny, when Democrats don't concede, like when Trump does it.
I can't look at this line. It's a dismal showing for Breed, a moderate Democrat. Get the fuck out of here. It's a moderate Democrat.
Shut up.
This is Politico too. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I don't. Laurie surged in the polls. Yada yada. He had the backing of many Asian Americans.
Real quick, I have the quote from her. So about that stupid concert. On September 16th, 2021, videos surfaced of showing Breed violating the city's mask mandate by not wearing a mask indoors while dancing at the Black Cat nightclub. She later explained the onstage reunion of the original members of Tony.
That's what this Tony. I knew it. Yes, in the 90s.
Yeah. Was something really monumental that occurred. I got up and started dancing because I was feeling the spirit and I wasn't thinking about a mask. Fuck you.
Feeling the spirit. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, dude, they suck. I'm trying to find California's map where I can actually read the counties.
Orange County moved red.
Yep. I told it, hey, if you ever get me to move out to Southern California, Orange County, that's where I'm living. Huntington Beach. If you can find me a nice house in Huntington Beach,
all right,
that's where I live.
I'll do that. But so it was a pretty good night for California, I think. Interesting. It's not even like I want us to go deep red, ultra conservative. It's just, can we be a little bit more moderate on a few things?
Yeah.
Can we make crime illegal?
Yeah. It needs to be like, right. There needs to be a balance, because what happens is that if either party is too dominant, then they can just like give in to their worst extremes, like whether it's the religious right or like crazy, anti-abortion stuff, or that really is dangerous. Or and in California, it's usually like left-wing stuff. Like, let's just give into like the craziest activist fringe, and like give them huge segments of our society and culture, and see how it goes. And that's the problem with California, is there's no threat. The only threats that ever come, at least we're talking like San Francisco, usually LA. The only threats that ever come are from the left. So you just have to constantly be out lefting each other until it goes too far. And then sometimes they tack back to the middle, which I think is what's happening now. I'm not saying California's ever going to go red again, period.
Right.
I think and I was saying this, and I was wrong about this at first, because I was getting a little nervous at the beginning of the election, where I was afraid that Florida was becoming to conservatives, to Republicans, to what California became for Democrats and liberals, which was, you're a liberal in Oklahoma or in Ohio, and what you move out to California. And I think that's a big reason why California became so blue. It's because it attracted those sorts of people.
Sure.
Plus a mix of many things, right? A lot of racial minorities who come. It's just like, the blue team is the one who supports you, so vote them. And I think that has to wear off, and I think we're seeing that. I think we started seeing that in the last couple of cycles, and more of that now. And I think that's why other parts of the country became so red, because California attracted so many, and to a lesser extent Oregon and Washington, where Florida, I was afraid, was doing the same things. Like, Florida became so red because all the Republicans from New York and New Jersey, Massachusetts, and even California were moving there. And that would actually make other places more blue, like Republicans from Michigan were moving to Florida. But it seems like that's not the case. I am afraid that could happen in the future. But the good thing, I think what's happening instead is Republicans from California, I think unfortunate maybe for you, are moving to places like Nevada and Arizona,
Right.
and keeping them red-ish to an extent.
So a couple of points I want to wrap up with California. So you're talking about the recall thing. This is such a great joke that like it wrote itself. So one of my favorite action movies of all time is Total Recall. The Paul Verhoeven with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so the first like time I actually even when I was a kid, I didn't pay much attention to politics, but like when I was this is Governor Greg Davis who got recalled in the early 2000s,
right? And
by Schwarzenegger. And so it was just like, come on, Total Recall, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like come on, like this is just like it was just so damn juicy. So of course there were so many headlines about how Schwarzenegger total recalled Greg Davis. But another thing too, I was a grocery store in LA, like basically right across the street from where I live, which you've been to, a grocery outlet, which my roommates and I refer to lovingly as gross out. There was just a few weeks ago, I was standing in line, and the cashier is Hispanic, and then the guy behind me, he looked like a blue collar, like Mexican dude, right?
Yeah.
And so they knew each other a little bit, so they were chatting, and they're like, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. How's business? Blah blah blah. And then the guy goes, hey, did you hear about that thing? And there was some crazy crime that happened with a bunch of teenagers. I think they lit like a police car on fire or some shit. Like they did some crazy thing in LA. And then he said, he's like, hey, did you hear about that thing that happened? She goes, oh my God, yeah, I know, that's terrible. And he goes, yeah, but luckily, like there were security cameras all over the place, so we got good footage of them, and so hopefully, like we'll actually be able to catch them. And she goes, yeah, hopefully they do that. And he goes, hopefully in the next few weeks we'll get rid of Gascon, and we'll actually have somebody who will keep them in jail. It's like these are like a cashier at a grocery store, and like some like just and like I don't know what his exact profession was, but he just dressed like in jeans and like plaid. He looks just like maybe the construction worker, just like a regular dude,
just like a dude, like a typical LA Latino dude.
Yeah, and it's like even they are saying this, like our DA. It's funny because they seem to know a little bit more about the DA than I did about that. But even they were saying hopefully we'll get somebody who will actually lock these guys up and keep them in jail.
It feels like a thing. It's almost one of those things. I'm just thinking this on the spot where it's like, if the average person in the district, whatever the county, knows the DA's name, it's probably not a good thing for the DA, because they're either probably like a wild crusader, like blocking everyone up, just like a fascist type guy, or they're like Gascon and they're just like letting everyone out and not listening to victims or anything like that. It's like people probably, unless you're a victim of crime or a criminal, you probably shouldn't even know the DA.
Right. Yeah. If the system's working, you should not notice it. It should be like, things have been pretty good lately. I don't know who to thank for that.
Yeah,
I'm glad things are going pretty
good. People who commit crimes are punished for those crimes, and the punishments aren't cruel and unusual, but they're also not too lenient. And that should be it. And that's what people expect in civilized society. So any deviation from that, 2 deviations from that, is a problem.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably absolutely right on that. The fact that like some like cashier at some small like local chain grocery stores, like we need a better DA.
Right, exactly.
It's like that should not happen.
I'm checking right now. Trump won 40.1% of California right now. It's kind of wild to see not only, and I didn't say this before, not only a Democrat winning under 60% of California, but a California Democrat. It's where she's from. It's not even like she's been in Congress where she's like really in DC a lot. Like, no, she was the attorney general, and was she the mayor of San Francisco? I think.
I don't remember.
Right? Wasn't she the mayor of San Francisco or no?
I don't think so. I know she's a DA.
But like basically winning 57% of California is pretty bad.
Yeah, again,
you're a Democrat.
home team. And also like the fact that Tim Walz like Kamala lost
Yeah.
he lost in his own district.
He
It's
lost
just
in
like
his own county.
county, yeah.
Like,
She was a
dude,
senator and she was Attorney General of California.
she wasn't a mayor.
I don't. Let me double check real quick.
I could have swore she was the
She
mayor.
might have like sucked him off at some point, but I don't
She
think.
definitely sucked him off.
Yeah,
That's why I think she got it. I think she sucked off. Was it Willie Brown?
Willie Brown, and then she briefly dated talk show host Montel Williams.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not seeing her being mayor of
Really?
anything. Yeah, just Attorney General,
Maybe
she's a
she's really the
senator,
mayor
and
then.
then
All right.
Vice president.
So I want to say something nice about Kamala Harris real quick.
Okay.
One, I think people are out of their fucking mind if they think Biden would have done better. There is some of that talk.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I don't know. Maybe you think that. I don't think so at all. I think if Biden ran, not only would Trump have won all these states, I think Virginia goes, Minnesota goes. Dude, the last poll, and now I believe this, the last poll, and one of the only polls taken in New Jersey for president when Biden was there, it was like June or July. So like pretty soon before he dropped out, Trump was winning by 1.
Yeah.
So I think if Biden runs, he might. And now that Trump got almost 47% or 46.5% in New Jersey, maybe New Jersey goes, New Hampshire probably goes, maybe even New Mexico. Like, I don't think Biden does. I think she did better. And what I liked about her campaign for what I want is like, I want 2 parties and neither of them are going to be doing crazy progressive social shit.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not talking about like labor stuff. I'm talking like basically the 2020 shit where she was in 2020. And she did not run that kind of campaign. She actually ran away from a lot of identity politics. She saw it as a loser. Again, if she was leaning into the woman-ness and the black that, I think she would have done even worse. I really don't think people tolerate that anymore. I think people want results.
She did lean into a little bit. She did tweet about how like this is my plan for black men, and it was like really condescending. That and also like using taxpayer money to fund gender transitions for like illegal immigrant children.
So with that, like again, I'm glad that her past was haunting her, but that wasn't on this campaign. That was something she filled out with the ACLU back during like 2019, 2020. That resurfaced. So again, good, because I couldn't stand her then, and I hate those policies and that kind of politics. I'm glad that we have the Wayback Machine and that stuff can come up now, right? But she wasn't running on that she was defending against that. The black men thing, I mean, Trump was saying like, I'm going to make black jobs. So she's just trying. So like she wasn't doing the Hillary Clinton thing of like, breaking the glass ceiling and it's my time and all of that. Like she wasn't doing that. I don't think she ran a good campaign necessarily. I remember I had my ticker on Twitter. It was number of interviews Kamala Harris and I have given for president since number of days that the count that Kamala Harris and I have given interviews for president, and we were both at 0 for a while. So it's like I think it was like 6 weeks she didn't give an interview. She was just trying to win off vibes, and I'm glad that didn't work. I was getting nervous there for a little, but again, for what she was given, I don't think she did all that bad. And I think Biden was significantly worse. I'm glad that the Democrats not only lost but got embarrassed. They lied to us for years. I mean, people like you and I knew this right away, but they lied about his cognitive abilities. They gaslit us, or I would say us, I mean like the American people, on democracy. They talk about they're the paragons of democracy, yet they anointed their candidate and didn't even have a primary.
Not only that, but like they're actually in favor of censorship, and so it's like in order to protect democracy, we have to limit not only like limit the number of options that are available to Americans, we also want to limit your access to like actually be informed on these options.
Sure. Yes,
that's not democracy at all.
Like our vetted sources. I love that all of what makes me so happy about this is that it all paid off. Like RFK, remember we were RFK guys. I still am. Like his endorsement.
I want to talk about that.
Tulsi Gabbard becoming a Republican. Like
Elon Musk.
And Crystal Ball on Breaking Points. You know what she said today or yesterday?
What's that?
She said, I think the first female president is going to be a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually predicted, because I did think, like a lot of people, I thought Trump was dead in the water at one point, like 2022. All the candidates lost that he backed. I had neighbors who were flying Trump flags who took him down and started flying DeSantis flags for a little. Like, I really thought, I'm like, okay, this is it. He had the lawsuits. Where the Democrats fucked up was they started lawfare. They started these lawsuits against them. And
did you see how like those lawsuits are
completely changed? Yeah. It galvanized people. It was like, look, we see his flaws. He's not great, but like, we hate you so much. And we hate what you're doing, and you're doing it. And it's like these bullshit cases, a lot of them, some have stronger, but some bullshit cases against him. Like, and it galvanized people, and he won a landslide in modern politics. And all of these things seem to have Elon Musk buying Twitter. I think this is a different election if Twitter's the Twitter of 2020, 2021. I do.
This has been a fascinating election because Elon Musk, who for the longest time, up until recently, was like the darling of Silicon Valley, like this forward thinking. I wouldn't say, I don't want to necessarily say progressive, because I think he was always a little bit kind of moderate-ish. Yeah. But like the fact that he came from Silicon Valley and he's in favor of clean energy and making electric cars cool. Yeah.
Electric cars. He's done more for the environment than like any single person.
Yeah. But we all just naturally assume, oh, he's one of us. He's a progressive. He's forward thinking.
Sorry, skipped my cat. Sorry.
He's an immigrant, but look how he's built himself up and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, now he's
dude.
Trump.
and what I love about this election is it was the epitome of the left, not necessarily cannibalizing itself, but pushing away people who used to be on their side. And I saw
Rogan.
Exactly. I saw a great tweet. It's like, the left needs its own Joe Rogan. And someone was like, we had him. His name was Joe Rogan.
And he's always said this up until like a year ago. He was always like, I've always been very progressive. I just don't like all this woke crap. But
like 2 years ago. But he switched to, he endorsed Bernie Sanders. He was like, Joe Rogan grew up in places like San Francisco.
He was a hippie. Boston. His parents were hippies.
His parents were hippies. He grew up on food stamps. Like, he saw how social programs helped his family.
Yeah.
I think he still believes in a lot of those things, which is good, which I believe in too. I believe in strong universal social programs.
Sure.
And they gave him and Bernie a ton of flack for those interviews because he wasn't perfect. It was the purity, because Joe Rogan wasn't passing the purity test, and would really open Rogan's eyes to the left, where when the left politics entered his world of UFC.
Yeah,
where it was a man,
and comedy,
and comedy. But he said this, the first one that really opened his eyes, because in other areas like comedy, there were always censorship people. Like, there were always, sometimes it was the right, sometimes it was less, but that had existed for a while.
Yeah,
it was political correctness at one point. But when it entered UFC and he watched a man beat the shit out of a woman, who was saying it was a trans man, and he came out being like, this is just wrong, not thinking that it would be divisive in any way.
Yeah.
And he was like, whoa, wait a minute, this is where this politics is going, where it's okay to watch a man just beat the shit out of a woman, where it's like, and also that he didn't disclose, then now he identifies as a woman. Like, it's one thing, I guess it's one thing if someone willingly and knowingly goes up against an opponent and knows their background, but like, this person didn't disclose it.
Yeah,
exactly. And he was like, it was horrific.
Yeah
And I think it's like, so it's like, this is they pushed away working class people, they pushed away minorities like Latinos with Latinx bullshit, gender stuff, which a lot of, I'm sorry, it's kind of ironic, it's like all these liberals who were very, very pro-immigrant, it's like, a lot of these immigrants come from very socially conservative places like the Middle East and South America and Africa and basically anywhere but fucking Denmark. Like, if we have a flood of Danish immigrants, and even them are actually like some the left in Denmark, but if we get like, okay, a bunch of Scottish immigrants again who are the Scottish Nationalist Party, then fine, maybe your politics will fly. But a lot of these people come from places where it's like they're coming to America for a better life. A lot of them. And they're like, my daughter is my daughter, and my son is my son. And if they change their names or the pronouns, I want to know about that.
Yeah.
Like this shouldn't be controversial shit. And and again, this was like another thing I love about this election. This wasn't even a 2016 where 2016, I was mortified that Trump won. I tweeted, I'm like 2016. It's a picture of the screaming liberal with the hair, and it's been over the internet for 8 years now.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like Kai from American Horror Story, where he's celebrating. It's Evan Peters' character celebrating the Trump win in his basement of 20. It's like 2016 versus 2024. Wild what 8 years can do.
Yeah.
But it's like that. At least 2016, it was like Hillary still won the popular vote by over 2 million. It was a handful, relatively, of votes in a handful of states. People could say, there was this Comey release. It was Russia. It was all this shit. It's like, no, we're still like righteous in the majority, and it's white supremacy. And it was just like pissed off white people and it's reactionary. It's like, no, this is the same guy 8 years later winning majorities of some minorities and sweeping swing states, doing better in 49 states. It's like you can't, or like the neoliberal economics and the progressive identitarian bullshit is done.
Yeah,
like that's not what people want.
Yep.
Even in liberal places, even in places like California, they're voting that shit out.
Yeah. No, it's for me, my vote for Trump was less about Trump and more about a fuck you to the establishment, a fuck you to the media, a fuck you to everyone who's talked down to, and I don't want to bring race into it, but like, sort of like wealthy, white, college educated journalists living in coastal cities, talking down to like minorities and working class people.
Yeah.
Like so many minorities in this country who, and I'm sure you and I are going to talk about this in the coming weeks of the book by Musecast, We Were Never Woke, about how these things, about how some of these policies claim to be helping minorities and LGBTQ, but end up harming them more than anything. It's like, so many of these groups that progressives claim to be in favor of and supporting are conservative and traditional and religious,
until they don't vote the way you want them to, then they turn into Derek Vineyard.
And look, and like exactly, like every politician is a liar, but it's like if you have two politicians who are running for president, and let's just say like the demographic that they're trying to win over is Latinos. One candidate is saying, hey, I want to help the Latinx community. And then you have the other candidate who's saying, and by the way, they're both liars, but the other candidate is saying, hey, I'm going to help you guys. I'm going to protect religious freedom. I'm going to help you run your businesses. I'm going to keep the government out of your business so you get to keep more of your money. And I'm going to keep all this crazy woke shit out of your lives. Even if they're both lying, who are they going to vote more in favor of? The person who says, hey, I'm going to keep the government out of your business. I'm going to make it easy for you to run your business.
I'm going to let you live your life. I'm going to let you live your life, get a slice of the American dream, however you want that to manifest. And other things I loved about this election, it was like Harris raised $1 billion in like 3 months. $1 billion, maybe even less than that, $1 billion, and Trump won. Yes, Trump had Elon on his side, but people are like, Harris had like many billionaires on her side. She had the richest person in the world.
She had like a bunch of
she had Bill Gates. She had tons of people on her side. She had I love that all the celebrities, people looked at the list and I tweeted sardonically, like one of my first tweets, I was like, I think if she got one more celebrity endorsement, she had this. Like that's all she needed. Like one, that's what people want. They want one more person living in Calabasas to tell them that this is who they're voting for. That's what we need. It's like, fuck, I was on the fence in this one, but then Jennifer Aniston told me she's voting for Kamala Harris. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to vote for her. So yes, that's exactly what it is. I love that shit failed too. People are done with this. You can love, like, I love Springsteen. I will defend Springsteen to the death. I don't give a fuck who he's voting for. Who he's saying to vote for. Like, I don't care.
So Kamala Harris, she had P. Diddy's guest list supporting her. She had Epstein's guest list supporting her. She had Wall Street supporting her. She had Dick Cheney and his daughter, Liz Cheney, supporting her.
Yeah, that's I want to talk about that. Is going to go down in the annals of history of like I think one of the biggest blunders in modern politics. It's like that the guy who was like yeah like what's that? What's his name? Was it Kane? Kane? What? Who was that?
I know who you're talking about. We're gonna go to Washington. We're gonna go to Oregon.
Yeah, Chappelle, which seems
Was it Dean
I
Cain?
felt
No, not Dean Cain.
Harry Dean.
Harry Dean,
like
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like surging at one point to be the Democratic nominee, right, for 2008.
Howard Dean.
Howard Dean. Yeah, Howard Dean. Chappelle like did that skit. You know, that was, maybe that's 2004 then, if that was Chappelle.
Yeah.
That would have been the 2004 election, I guess, when
Right.
they were gonna pick someone to run against Bush.
Yeah.
Dude, that feels so innocent now to politics. Like that's what ruined someone's campaign.
And he was doing well too, wasn't he?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
He was in first.
But the Beyond killed him. Apparently.
Yeah, just because he had some like awkward bray, like he lost his campaign. Like this guy, I actually feel bad for him. I remember him being like a super like lefty green, like environmental guy, but that's what ruined his campaign. As hilarious compared to.
I remember I was like 12 years old, 13 years old when that happened. I remember being in the car and hearing how he was like leaving the election. And I remember hearing my mom going, "Oh, come on, like that shouldn't be the thing that ruins his campaign." Like he was a pretty good candidate. Like,
yeah, he was doing. I want to see Harold Dean scream.
Dean Scream. Yeah, that's right.
Dean Scream has its own Wikipedia page. Oh my God! The Dean Scream was an energetic scream by Howard Dean, the former governor of Vermont, on January 19th, 2004. Wait, 2004. Oh, 2004, right? So January. During a speech he gave at the Val Air Ballroom in West Des Moines, Iowa. Oh, okay, so this was like going into right.
I'm not gonna lie. If he was running and he did that, I'd be like, I'm voting for this guy. This guy's really passionate about America.
I think it would get memed today, and it would be like, yeah, like dude, he's showing some chutzpah. Yeah, that is so funny that. The audience before streaming, within 4 days, it was broadcast 633 times on national news networks and cable channels. Following the scream, Dean lost more primaries and suspended his campaign following his third place result in Wisconsin. It's been described as a political gaffe. However, Dean's campaign staff have claimed that he would have lost anyway due to the poor campaign organization. All right. Anyway, that's very funny. Yeah. I don't think the governor of Vermont is going to win the national election really necessarily, but also weird thing about governors, Vermont overwhelmingly voted for their reelected their Republican governor. Like Vermont has he's like very moderate and even maybe a Democrat in some states, but he is a Republican and he's like not only a Republican in the bluest state in the country, but has like a super high approval rating, like the highest in the country, which was also the case with New Hampshire's Republican governor. Right. New Hampshire again, they went blue by like a few points, but elected another Republican. Chris Sununu was the last one. This is a woman. I think her name's Ayotte or something, or Ayotte. And then Hogan in Maryland, that's a deep blue state, and he was a very popular Republican governor there. And same thing goes for Democratic governors in some red states like Kentucky and Kansas. And when I lived in Louisiana, they actually had a Democrat governor who was very popular. Anyway, so California. Oh yeah, the election. Yeah, so like all of these things, it's like you had the most popular pop star in the world, right? Who is an American.
Yep. Who
supports you, who endorsed you during the abortion election, like the first general election. And I mean that not in the way sometimes we use abortion. Like, I mean that, and literally this is abortion is a major, it's usually between numbers 2 and 4, sometimes 1 for some voters and what they find most important.
Yeah.
And Trump won white women.
Yeah.
He won white women and it's like one of the few demographics he did worse. He did a little worse with black women I've seen so far than 2020, but he did better than 2016. Yeah. And Latinas, I think I've seen a mix. Depending where you look at it, I've seen him get as high as like 48, 49% with Latinas.
Right.
And then when you add Latino men, it's like over 50% with just in general. Like he's won them outright, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
As he won Miami-Dade County.
Yeah.
Like Hillary Clinton won that, I think, by 30 points.
Yeah.
Biden won it by like 7, and he outright won Miami-Dade County. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I was mostly following the Daily Wire and their coverage of the election, and Shapiro brought up the same stat that you mentioned, which was that in every like region that Biden won, Kamala Harris performed worse. Like it's like even if she won it, it was like but like the walking colostomy bag still did a better job than you. Right. So like
I pictured that literally for a second, then I realized what your illusion, but that it was very funny.
But real quick, I want to talk about the RFK Jr. thing. So you and I have both expressed our support for him. So
he was he's one of the only politicians I've ever like bought merch for. Like one of the few. Like so you've been kind of open about your voting for Trump and like why you did more. Like to me, to be honest, like my protest vote was more 2020, where I didn't vote for Trump, but I didn't vote for Biden. Where if you had asked me who I'm voting for in like March 2020, even April 2020, like early COVID, I was just like a down the middle, moderate Democrat. Like I wrote a whole thing about I'm supporting Pete Buttigieg. I was watching Vox videos on like, each, that's when like it was like real politics. It was like real primaries. Like here's the case for Elizabeth Warren. Here's the case for Kamala Harris. Here's the case for Tulsi. It was like all of them. And I was like, who's this? Bernie. I did like Bernie, like Pete Buttigieg. That's like, I was a little more moderate than I was in 2016, 2015. So I'm like, and then by November, I was like, fuck the Democrats. I'm done. I voted down ballot Republican, but I couldn't get myself to vote for Trump. I honestly, this is the first time I voted for Trump. And I was toying with it, early summer. I really loved RFK, but it looked like it was just like kind of petering out. He wasn't going to be a real force. I really wanted him to run. If he ran as a Democrat in a primary where they actually had one, I would have registered as a Democrat and voted for him. In the primary. I was definitely not going to vote for the Democrats, but I was like, do I vote RFK and Republican down ballot? And then Trump got shot, and he got up and he said, fight, fight, fight. And I was like, all right, that's my vote. Like it sounds infantile, but like, you got shot in the face, or in the head. He got shot in the ear, and he gets up and he's yelling, fight, fight, fight. Like, are you kidding me? That is so badass. Like that won my vote right there. So I was like, I'm voting for Trump.
It took me a little bit longer to be convinced to vote for Trump, but that was still like, God damn it. I mean, it's like if a set of stairs can take down Biden, and like
Biden would have he got shot in the ear, would have fallen and broken his hip and then died. Like that
exactly,
like
but also just like the Democratic coup of like we're gonna replace Biden with Kamala. I'm like, these are the only two options we have now.
And also like just wrong for Democrats. I can't see myself just with COVID, with the like it'll take me a while. It would have to be a string of like bad Republicans. Like if the Republicans go back to like the neocon era, if it's like the Mitt Romneys and the Paul Ryans and the change, like they go back to that, and the Democrats are like competent and moderate and like good with labor stuff, but like just basically what they were not that long ago.
Right.
Like, like but not like the neo-libs like Bill Clinton. Like, so you do have to kind of cobble stuff together. Basically, go back to I'll vote Democrat. Like, but if the Republicans stay with this new right, and last thing I want to say, if I like Trump, like I like him a lot more. I think a lot of the craziness is people just taking everything the media feeds them, which I don't know why they do that. He's not perfect. He has issues. That's fine. You're not going to find a perfect candidate. And I'm in the minority here, and people say it doesn't matter. Him picking Vance was huge for me. Like if he went with a Youngkin, if he went with a Nikki Haley, like one of these war hawk maniacs. Not that Youngkin is. Youngkin's fine, but like, you know, the typical hedge fund guy,
Yeah.
the war
Country
hawk.
club
If
Republican.
yeah, even like an evangelical from the Midwest. So like if he went from to that again, like a Mike Pence, it would not have been as attractive. I probably still would have voted for him. But now I'm like, I want Trump to be a bridge to Vance. I want a Vance Gabbard 2028. That's what I'm looking for. If they stick with that, then yeah, I'm sticking with the Republicans.
I at first was much more critical of JD Vance, but again, it's like a handful of crazy things that he said a while back. Sure, fine. Like I don't agree with what
he said some crazy shit on podcasts. We don't know what that's like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but also like I listened to him on Joe Rogan. I haven't listened to the full interview, but like the first hour or so that I listened to, I was like, he seems. First off, he's like, you know, the handful of clips I listened to him debating Tim Walz. He was 1,000 times more intelligent, 1,000 times more coherent.
Dude,
and
he's just competent. It's like it's wild how competent he is.
He's also more moderate. There are numerous times in the Joe Rogan interview where he sided with old school liberals, where he's like, you know, for me growing up, like I thought it was a good thing that the liberals were against big pharma, that they were scrutinizing major corporations getting in bed with the government. And like, you know, like as you kind of alluded to, where it's like, yeah, that was like always kind of a good thing that the left was
there used to be that suspicion of corporations, suspicion of government,
and now like the sort of
the
moderate
manufacturers. Now the Democrats are the party of war.
Yeah, and now you're seeing like this growing sort of like moderate right. That's like, yeah, this is what liberals were 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And so seeing JD Vance being much more articulate about talking and also fully admitting it, like you know, he's not some hardline conservative where it's like, yeah, everything left wing is bad. Of him saying like, hey, the left got it right not that long ago. The left was correct on a few issues.
He's praised Lena Khan, who like, yes, she wants to like break up these monopolies, these power forces that hate Republicans.
Yes.
That 98% donate to Democrats and suppress right-wing speech. It's like Republicans, right-wingers should be defending her. And that was actually, again, Harris, one of the few things that she could have done is she was toying with not keeping Lena Khan because of like Mark Cuban and these other Democrats, like these big donors. And it's like JD Vance. Now, are the Republicans going to keep her? I'm afraid not. But I hope there's that voice that's like, no, this is our coalition now. We are working class. We are multi-ethnic. We are like, we have yes, we need you need big donors. We have that. We're the richest guy in the world on our side. And that's going to be a conflict right there. I know with Elon, and he's probably going to win out. And I think that sucks. But you know, basically there's more of that force. There's like that labor force within, like, people don't realize when and I know we're kind of running a little over here, but Trump wins what you would call kind of the stereotypical union vote. People don't realize that. Yeah. When you add in all of the other unions, right? Teachers unions, actors unions, legal services unions. When you add all of these in,
Teamsters,
Trump doesn't win the union vote, but he does win the blue collar union vote. And people don't understand like this. And these are people in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. Like, he wins that vote. And that's who you want to keep. That's that used to be the Democrats' bread and butter. Mm-hmm. They used to be people. The Democrat Party in Minnesota is actually called the DNF or something, like the Democrat Farmers Party or DFP or something like that. Huh. Like, they're not just called the Democrats. They have this like weird name that's in a few states. They have like something else, but that they all vote red now. They kept or not they. I mean, the Democrats, they're still called that. Like, Tim Walz is technically that, but that constituency is all red now.
Yeah,
like the Democrats win Minneapolis and St. Paul. St. Paul and a couple other, districts, but everything else is red there. That all used to be Democrat territory. So that, like, I hope there's that force. And Trump has said, I hope he's right. He said that, like, I won in 2016. I did say these things. I did promise these things, but I was also new to politics. And I'm paraphrasing here. So I trusted people like.
Are you paraphrasing his Joe Rogan?
I don't remember exactly. Was it Rogan where he talks about like I surround myself with insiders because I was an outsider more?
Yeah, no, I like that about him. He admitted that he appointed some bad people.
Yes, because he needs some insiders. He didn't know how this all worked. He was a businessman. He was a TV personality, right? And now he's like, no, I have good people beside me, and he has a mix of people. I think it's really telling that he has like a Tulsi Gabbard, that he has RFK, like a Kennedy, endorsed a Republican. Like that's awesome.
Yeah,
like, that is.
So I want to talk about RFK Jr.
Yeah, talk about RFK.
So RFK, you know, he did the sort of comedian podcast thing. He was on like Tiger Belly with Bobby Lee, and he did Theo Von, and so Tim Dillon was on Theo Von's podcast, and they were talking about how much, like, you know, they like RFK Jr. and how much they admire him. And so so you know, RFK Jr., like, he's married to Cheryl Hines, you know, from
of course,
Curb Your Enthusiasm. And so he said, it's so damn funny. Tim Dillon was talking, he goes, their marriage is like a sitcom, because she's like the bubbly, you know, she's playing, you know, tennis with the neighbors, whereas he's like, Cheryl, you know, there's a bomb in the mailbox. like so, and then Theo Von's like, yeah, how come people are always like, hey, RFK Jr., how come you're so like skeptical of the government? It's like, dude, like, they tried to kill your family. They killed your family.
Yeah, they killed his dad. They killed his uncle. Like, no shit.
And then that Kennedy who died in the helicopter crash, and it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of
Ted kind of reversed that. He was in the killing then, but
but like, but it's just like, and he goes, I was like, yeah, like, hey, honey, do you want some strawberries? He goes, there's a bomb in the car, Cheryl. Like, it's just...
Yeah, I love him. First of all, and he's not fucking like anti-vax, by the way. I want to put this out there. His children are vax. It's like, it's the slew of vaccines. It's the mercury in the vaccines, the food. It's more about making things healthy. It's the fact that people don't realize that pharmaceutical companies, vaccine manufacturers, they don't have liability. Like, as a lawyer, that's insane. There's this giant segment of our economy, healthcare, not all of them, of course, med-mal is a big practice, but like vaccine, they don't have liability. Like, that should raise the alarms of people on the left.
Yes.
Like, that is crazy to me.
Wasn't it like considered a major win for progressives not that long ago? Again, like very much within our lifetimes, when, you know, it was mandated that pharmaceutical companies have to divulge what they put into like their products. Like,
I don't remember.
I don't know all the details, but like, I'm just saying, like, the shift from like not that long ago when progressives were like, hey, pharmaceutical companies, you're making tons of money. At the very least, can you just say what you're putting into your products before we start taking them?
It's called skepticism. It's called asking. It's called being inquisitive. It's
accountability.
Yes, maybe I say this jokingly and lovingly. I grew up around a lot of Jews, and I think that's why I'm so inquisitive, because it's an inquisitive religion. It's asking questions. It's honestly why, again, I mean this wholeheartedly and not in a negative way at all. It's why they make really good lawyers. And they're good businessmen. It's about asking questions, about getting the bottom of things, and this is ingrained in the Torah. This is ingrained, or the Talmud, or I'm sorry, I'm not a historian on this stuff, but again, it's like there's a reason for this. It's also because they couldn't hold a lot of other jobs because the Christians would fucking slaughter them. But still, like in Europe. But and I always joke. I don't want to get into like medieval history, but it's like, man, maybe the religious minority shouldn't be the only ones who are allowed to charge interest. Like, you know that Christians couldn't charge interest, so Jews were allowed to, and it's like you have a religious minority who everyone fucking hates because they're charging interest on everything, and that's why they always happen to be the scapegoats. Like, I mean, it's like this wasn't foreseeable for anyone, but still, I digress. So I love that RFK was on this winning side,
and I hope. So there's a meme. I you might have seen it. I was going to share it with you, and I totally forgot. But it was, so you've seen The Princess Bride, right?
Yeah, very long time ago. Speaking of Milburn, where I grew up, Anne Hathaway is wait, that's not the right movie.
No, that's Princess Diaries.
Prince Diaries. Well, anyway, she's from Milburn. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So The Princess Bride, there's that Spanish guy who's on a quest to avenge his father's death. And he has his line, and he repeats it multiple times throughout the movie, where I'm paraphrasing a little bit because it's been years since I've seen it, but it's where he's like, you know, my name is Diego San Diego. You killed my father, prepare to die. And he keeps saying this, I'm going to find the man who killed my father. And I'm going to say, he keeps saying this
Diego
line.
Montoya or something.
Diego Montoya, yeah. And so somebody dug up a picture of RFK Jr. when he was young, like in the 70s, and he's got kind of longish hair. And it's like, RFK Jr. to the CIA. My name is RFK Jr. You killed my father, prepare to die. And so like, I hope that now that he's
Dude,
with
open
Trump,
the fucking books. Like,
no,
open
not
the
only
book.
that, he's gonna go fucking scorched earth on these
Yeah.
3-letter organizations. So the CIA, the FBI,
Yep.
the FDA. I hope he
Yep.
just goes. That's funny because he's an environmentalist.
CDC. Yeah.
Yeah, I want him to go fucking scorched earth, like just like
Me too,
rip
dude.
everything open, just
You know
expose
that,
everything.
which is funny because we always talk about like people playing different races. Like, do you know what actor that is who plays
Nuh-uh.
Diego Montoya?
Uh-uh.
It's Potemkin or whatever. Potemkin. He's like a Jewish guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy from who's done some really cringe like Democrat stuff. The guy from Homeland.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
No,
Mandy
that sounds familiar.
Potemkin or whatever his name is.
That name sounds so damn familiar, but I don't know.
Did like some super cringe like COVID stuff, on Zoom. Mandy Patinkin, is that his name? Mandy Patinkin, yeah, Mandy Patinkin.
Mm.
I guess just type that in. Well, he looks crazy without a beard. Oh my god, he's really good in Homeland. But anyway,
okay.
Yeah, of course
But,
he's like going nuts about
Trump.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope. And here's the like again, this is largely for the longest time a left wing, I like skepticism of these governmental agencies.
Yeah.
So I hope that
it's that old school lefty stuff that I find attractive too. That honestly, even up and through COVID, somewhat like the resistance on against the vaccines and the lockdown, somewhat was coming from like lefties in California. Like that was the side that really. I mean, again, I don't agree with all this either. Like I'm a huge fan of Western medicine. I think it's done a lot of wonderful things.
Yeah.
Big fan of medicine, big fan of a lot of vaccines. Again, not anti-vax.
Yeah.
But when you have a profit incentive, when we're one of the only 2 countries in the world that allows for pharmaceutical advertising, that maybe they want to keep our population sick because they make money off of it. Maybe there's a reason that they're not saying get the vaccine and also exercise and get plenty of sleep and get sun and eat healthy. It's no, just get the vaccine and stay inside. Just do this and make sure you get it every 6 months or whatever it is. Like, yeah, what of course. So
JD Vance brought this up in his interview with Joe Rogan, where it was a good point where he said, you watch these commercials of
nonstop
pharmaceuticals. Yeah, not only that, but it's like in order to solve one symptom, it gives you 8 other like worse symptoms. Like it's like suicidal ideation and like depression. And he goes, and also like these advertisements, it's like, who do you want to be persuaded more by? A TV commercial or your doctor who's going to lay out, what is the best option for you, which treatment is best for you. And I was like, yeah, that's a reasonable point to bring out. Like, why are we so reliant on like, oh, hey, look, they spent millions of dollars on a TV commercial. It must be correct. How about talk to your doctor who will like,
and a lot of doctors were suppressed during COVID. My doctor is like, he seems like pretty base. Like I remember him being like pretty cool during COVID, but he still died. But he was like, it's one of those things where sometimes you kind of tell, and he was very open about how much he fucking hated Biden. He's a cool guy, though. I won't drop his name, but he's a good guy. Anyway, wild election. Really, like I did think Trump was gonna win. I thought a lot of the when people, even Breaking Points, who I listen to every day, they were talking about, 2022. I'm like, first of all, Trump wasn't on the ballot in 2022.
Right.
There are a lot of terrible candidates who try and beat Trump. And the key, JD Vance, what I like about him is he doesn't try to beat Trump.
Yeah.
I like him on a lot of policies, and he just seems like a good politician. Though I'll give this example. The more people heard from Kamala Harris, the less they liked her. The more people heard it from JD Vance, the more they liked him. Like he only got more popular. The more people were like, oh, well, I heard he was weird. I heard he was like, I think people thought he'd be some like crazy evangelical. First of all, he's Catholic. He converted. Second of all, and one thing I hated Tim Walz. I think he was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm also very glad that they lost because I think if she picks Shapiro, maybe she wins, and at least she gets Pennsylvania. I don't think it would have mattered at this point.
Yeah.
Wouldn't matter at this point, but the blue wall, and I made, now the red wall. I should have listened to this. They always go the same.
Yeah.
So I split them because I had Wisconsin going blue. 2016, 2024, all three went red. And I think since like 92 or something, or the 80s, they've all gone the same, whatever that is. Like it's never 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. I don't know. I think Shapiro has the sort of, he does sometimes just do an Obama impression, which is somehow racist. I don't know. But I think he's talented. I think he'll be a good politician, a force. Like I think he's one of the forces on the right, or excuse me, on the left. But Tim Walz, one thing I couldn't fucking stand about him is the weird comment. I'm like, you guys, you have the nerve to call them weird or call us weird when you do like you're the one who's parading down the street with naked drag queens with children. Like you call us weird. And two, how he was trying to hit JD Vance with like Ivy League shit. It's like JD Vance came from the lower middle class and went to Ohio State. Yeah. And then he went to Yale Law School. He wasn't some what's it called? Legacy admission. Right. He doesn't have generations of family going to the Ivy League. Like he did it. He like, that's the way you're supposed to do it when you come from where he comes from.
And for what I understand, Hillbilly Elegy, the book that he wrote that turned into a movie, like wasn't that like a pretty middle of the road book? Because like from what I understand, it was like on the one hand, like it definitely shone a light on like working class Appalachian. The population, but also it also kind of criticized them too, where it's like, hey, you're not going to leave this town,
right?
Yeah,
that's why liberals loved it.
Yeah, you're not going to leave this town. You're going to stay here with the family, and so like it seemed kind of like, hey, I'm going to explore the nuances of this community that's largely ignored by the mainstream, and kind of look at the pros and the cons of it. So it's like I said, like when I first kind of heard about him, I was more critical of him, but I'm like actually listening to him talk at length about certain things, I'm like, he does not seem like some crazy far right guy.
No, I think he's great, dude. The more I heard about him, the more I like him.
Yeah,
I'm very, very happy with that. I mean, I hope they don't fuck it up. I hope they go in this direction.
So real quick, so I was talking to my mom this morning, about Trump and everything in the election, and she's talking about how much she doesn't like him. I'm like, like I agree. Like there are plenty of things I don't like about Trump, but he's pretty funny. And I mentioned the tampon,
super funny.
The tampon.
I thought he was funny when I didn't even like him.
I followed him even when I was critical of him, much more critical of him. I followed him on Twitter because he had a funny Twitter. But
dude, when he would just go like the haters and the losers, like that rules. Like or one of my favorite things, I think, was even during like a Clinton debate where she says like, I don't even know where this guy comes from, and it's like a pause. You just hear him go, Queens. Like off camera, it's so like the timing is so goddamn funny.
He could be really damn funny. He but I mentioned so there was that dinner that he did not that long ago. And like it was not a correspondence dinner, but there were a lot of politicians there, like Democrats and Republicans, and so Trump gets up on the podium and he says, I always thought the Democrats were crazy for believing that a man can have a period, but after meeting Walz, now I believe them. And he said that. And Chuck Schumer sitting right next to him. And so when I told my mom that story, she goes, "Okay, that's actually pretty funny."
Very funny.
So real quick, I just want to talk a little bit about the celebrity and media reactions to Trump's win. So I've got The View, and I just want to preface this real quick. So this is from Tim Dillon when he was on Joe Rogan a while back. He said that this is a direct quote from him. There are many brilliant women in the world, and none of them are on The View. So The View is just sort of like the dumping ground of loud, opinionated women.
It's kind of bizarre how insane they are.
Yeah. It's obscene. So I got a few choice quotes here. So this is from Variety, and so this just has some quotes from the women on right after the election. So what happened last night? Whoopi Goldberg asked her co-host while never uttering Trump's name. She later told them, "He's the president. I'm still not going to say his name. That's not going to change." I don't know why she's treating.
I don't know how he's
Trump.
going to recover from that.
I don't know why she's treating Trump like he's like, like Bloody Mary or Beetlejuice or Voldemort. I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah. Or what's the black guy who kills you?
Oh, Candyman.
Yeah, it's not set up like that. That's a real movie.
So I think I mentioned this before on the show. There was a woman I dated a few years ago. So it was during the 2020. It was during the summer of 2020,
Just when you sent me
and
a video.
maybe
Yeah.
no, maybe I don't know. I don't think so actually.
Oh.
But anyway,
I like a private video, by the way. So it's on YouTube.
Oh,
But you're
okay.
like, oh, I dated this girl. Remember?
Oh no, that was
Yeah.
earlier. No, I remember that chick's name. Where she's reading like the resistance speech from an iPhone.
Yeah.
No, that was before that. No, so I was dating this chick, and so this is when I was much more critical of Trump. But so I had this dog named Chomper, and so just as a joke, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you know Donald Trump," or "Yeah, Melania Trump," and she couldn't. She hated that joke. Interesting. It was not a pro-Trump joke. It was just it was a play on words. His name's Chomper, Donald Chomp. Like it just seemed like a funny dumb little thing. But she's like, "Nope, I'm not gonna accept that." I was like, "Okay, Melania Chomp," and she goes, "Nope." I was like, "Okay, well, it's just a dumb play on words. Like, why are you so offended by the word Trump? Like, just like that alone,
dude, it broke people."
Yeah,
and it didn't break me. I was very upset. I was very progressive, very liberal. But I also, and I always say this, you know, I'm not going to shy away from that. But I give myself credit where it's like I also criticized people who, like, for instance, we were talking about the American Horror Story season Cult, right? Where like I would see, and it's Sarah Paulson, and they're playing like libs who like just watch the first scene from that season, who are, you know, just being hysterical, being insane. And I would like make, and then she's like in her shrink's office and she like can't look at a piece of coral or something because of the holes. It just wants people has an issue with everything, you know. And I would just be like, man, this makes us look so fucking bad. Like, you know, when I interned, I was working in the UN. And I would like intern, and there'd be like all, you know, all these globalist people. There's like some guy who made some water purification thing. I'm like, that's great. And then he's like doing a song on something, and I'm like, dude, this makes us like, this is why people don't take us seriously. And I very much consider like us, like I was one of these people, and I'm like, this is not like, no, fight back, like vote, like change. You know, I was a big like Bernie guy, so I wasn't thrilled with Hillary either, but I still voted for her. And it was like, no, like don't be like the you know, I still make fun of like the people. I'm like, why are you shutting? Like I remember, I don't know why, this video of Dartmouth where like these students were like disrupting the library. I'm like protesting, like they're studying, like they're not even like, you think that's going to solve anything? That's just going to piss people off.
Right.
And it's that kind of shit that even at my most progressive, most anti-Trump, I still was against that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I even told my mom same thing when I talked to her today. I was like, so many woke progressive people were posting videos of themselves crying. I'm sure you probably saw that video of that woman like you know, breaking the news to her children that
Dude,
Trump won.
I saw this one tweet. It's one of my like one of the, they've been, by the way, one of the best days in meme history.
I know it was so damn good.
But there was one simple tweet that I love so much. I do, it was just Project 2025 is just, you're not allowed to cry, like videotape yourself crying in your car anymore. It's like, that's Project 2025.
And did you see that one of that woman like breaking the news to her children that
I don't
Trump
think
won?
so. I saw plenty of, I'm sorry, just thinking about them. Not like the videos. There's some Schadenfreude in that, but like the ones, there's like this meme that had like the crying liberal and like, you know, some other screaming liberal and had them like just their heads cut out, and it was like catapulting them or something. Something really, really good.
And so I was telling my mom, like, see, this is why conservatives think liberals are a bunch of sissies, because they like, I'm going to film myself crying and screaming and put it on the internet.
And I actually think this stuff like matter. I think it's why, you know, a lot of men are just like, no, we're not associating with that anymore.
Yeah,
like this is why, like, we're not associated with this.
So Eli Mistel, are you familiar with him?
Is he black?
He's black, and he wrote a book called "May I Retort?" Where
is he like really crazy? Is he like a Nahesi Coates type guy?
Yeah,
okay.
He wrote.
I see him pop up, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so he wrote a book about I think it's called like "Allow Me to Retort," where the Constitution is fundamentally racist. And so, by the way, I think he's the one that you mentioned earlier in this episode. where people saying Harris should have done Joe Rogan are missing the point. That would not have helped her. Liberals need to build their own Joe Rogan. So I think that might have been the one who you're quoting.
Yeah.
So
you guys had your own Joe Rogan. His name was Joe Rogan.
Exactly. Yeah. So he said something that I thought was unbelievably racist, and I'm trying to pull it up right now, but it was like, it had to do with like, oh, here it is. I got it right here. So I hate this piece of shit, and he's just been going around calling everybody a racist and not. But this is a guy who's like a contributor to a lot of like. He's a guest on like MSNBC, and he's contributed to like a lot of mainstream outlets. So listen to these two tweets. One thing I do worry about is that the solidarity between people of color has been significantly damaged. Watching Latinos chase model minority status has never sat well with Black people, but this is a wound the Black community won't soon forget. Why is he talking like a mobster? Where it's like, hey, you stabbed us in the back. We're not going to forget this, Latinos.
I don't think that solidarity ever existed either.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. And it goes on. So this is the second tweet. White supremacy cannot be defeated unless we're all in it together. Obviously, a majority of white people are not going to help. But this election really shows that a lot of other people of color do not want to defeat white supremacy. They want to join it. That's unbelievably racist.
I think we're going to see a proliferation of the term white Hispanic coming up too.
Oh yeah.
We saw a little of it in the 2020, 2021. They kind of went away. I think it's coming back. I think it's made a comeback.
Yeah. No. So I wrote an article about this in the 2020 election. I did not vote in at all. But so I wrote this article where it was like, hey, look, I didn't vote for Trump, but at the same time,
you have to do the throat clearing.
Yeah, exactly. But so he won more Latinos than he did in 2016. And so I read this article where it's like,
he won more of everything. He won more of every single race,
except white men, right?
Yeah, white men without college degrees. He did like a little worse than lost.
But I wrote this article, and I was not like, I was criticizing the condescension that was being directed at Latinos especially from non-Latino like pundits.
Yeah,
like just like, hey, like, why are you voting against your interests? It's like, I'm sorry, a lot of us are very religious, a lot of us are very conservative, a lot of us are blue collar. Biden didn't do it for us. And so I think I'm going to write a follow-up to that article.
I was right again.
Exactly. Yeah,
you dumbasses should have listened to me.
But we're seeing that. And so like, I'm starting to wonder if this was like, and this is just me being like thinking out loud and just going full on like tinfoil hat.
That's why we have this podcast.
Oh yeah. But I wonder if there was like a little bit of a coordination, like a concerted effort. It's like, hey, let's gradually downgrade Latinos from like minority or people of color to white adjacent. In the event that something like this happens, when they overwhelmingly vote for a white male candidate, then we can very easily say, like, it's almost like plausible deniability. Like, we can easily say, oh yeah, like, they see for years we've been saying that they're becoming more and more white. Or if they did vote for Kamala Harris, then they could just be like, oh, that was just kind of a phase that didn't really, I'm glad that the Latino vote came out in solidarity with people of color. We're all the same. We're all exactly the same. So I wonder if there was like a little bit of like I don't want to say like conspiracy, but there was a little bit of like, hey, they're starting to not really align with us.
I don't think I won't give them that much credit. And also I think that backfire. I mean, Latinos are the second largest voting bloc now, right?
Right.
Have been for a while, and actually are on pace to maybe be the biggest at one point. I don't know. Still, the electorate's still very white. Yeah. But younger generations are a little less white. So, and I think Latina, like Asian and Latino, and again, these are like huge groups. I understand that. But I think like the only minority group that hasn't increased in population, I think, is Black. So, so like Latinos are, there's a lot have come, and they like to have babies. Like that's just, they have more babies than other races. Yeah. So, so I also think it's smart where like, not only are they voting more, like there are a lot of Latino Republican politicians now.
Yes.
Like winning districts, becoming mayors, becoming congresswomen and congressmen and congresswomen. I wouldn't be surprised like if the first Latino president's a Republican either. Yeah. Like I don't know who it would be at this point, and I don't know who the Democrats would have.
The first Black politicians were Republican, like the first black
They
senator,
were.
the vast,
Yeah, a lot were, but also at the time, like although the Republicans were friendlier to black people, it was just like still super racist in the
right. I mean, like
country.
the party of Lincoln, who was a Republican, is different from the party of Trump.
Dude,
So
absolutely wild. And I kind of respect it now. It used to piss me off when I was anti-Trump. Like when he's just like, I'm the best thing to happen to black people since Lincoln. Like he just it's like actually bizarre and one of those things that's like only he can say that.
yeah.
Like it is kind of crazy because it's not true, but it's like it's pretty crazy that he just is like, yeah, best president for black people since Lincoln.
Keep in mind,
Mm.
just before he lost in 2020,
Yeah.
he had, what was it? Was it like the Platinum Plan or whatever, where like Ice Cube met with him?
Mm.
And so Ice Cube, like who's always been very critical of Republicans and Trump, but he wanted to meet with both presidential candidates before the election to see who would do a better job of helping black people. And so Ice Cube even said, he's like, look, I've been critical of Trump, but like I wanted to meet with Biden. He never got back to me. Trump at least met with me, and so Trump announced, I think it was called the Platinum Plan, where he's like he was going to like put like I don't remember the exact, but like a lot of money into like black businesses, and this never fell through because obviously he lost, but it was sort of like Trump tried, like
he did. I don't think he was like, I don't think it's absolutely insane what he's saying, but I don't know. I actually don't know how you measure that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But and I am curious to see because there was a lot of talk about the black vote in this election and what's going to be. I know in some places, like I said, he got over a third of black men in Texas, right? So like there's those sorts of stats. I want to see overall. I think though Kamala's candidacy watered that down because a lot of black women registered the vote who I think were just going to sit it out in this election if it was Biden again, and a lot of black women who maybe never voted. So I think that like diluted the overall amount, because right now I think a lot of the numbers are like, yeah, he did a little better, but people are thinking like, oh no, he's going to win like 25% of black people. And I don't think it's even close to that, but I think he'd still do better out of his three elections. But we'll see. I find this stuff interesting. Again, I kind of hate politicians. I kind of hate politics in a sense, but it tells us a lot about our country, about our culture, about different cultures within our country. I find it very interesting. So this is just kind of scratching the surface. Again, very happy all around. Like I love that LA recall, or not even recall, voted out the
Gascon. California overall, just like moving in a more moderate direction.
The most, and again, if Latino, like the thing is that white people, like California whites, seem like some of the most liberal. If the Republicans really do a middle class, working class coalition building, like maybe California could be in play. I don't know. I think it'll take a lot to get there. But if you start getting like things that Filipinos and Mexicans, and again, we're talking like generational too. And then the conservative white people in different parts of it, and military down San Diego, and even some like libertarian minded people, maybe up in like the Northern California. I don't know. It might take a lot to get there, but at least maybe more districts. At least it will be a counterweight to the craziness. So even if it is a lot of Democrats, it's not insane ones that we saw throughout the 2010s into the 2020s. Same in New Jersey, dude. I don't know. Like, now that Trump won, I don't know if now there might be a backlash. We have our gubernatorial election this year, 2025. So maybe they ride this wave and we elect a Republican. Chattarelli only lost by a few points in 2021. I think he's going to run again. I'm already, by the way, day after the election, there were already signs for the governor for the Democrat in Atlantic City.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think it was the governor. Maybe, I think it was the governor. But we'll see. I don't know. It's all interesting.
Yeah. So this is I know this is longer than usual, but it's an election day special. So
there's a lot to talk about. Very kind of crazy, very crazy. Like if you had told me in shortly after 2020 like where we were after January 6th, like I would have been like, and even the midterms, like where there's the momentum of the Republicans, but Trump is just like kind of failing. And then you're telling me like Trump wins in 2024, he wins the popular vote by a lot. He wins every swing state, and in fact, every state in the country shifts to the right except for one.
Yeah,
I would have been like, you're a liar, sir. I think you're lying to me.
And also, just quickly, kind of highlight, the cultural impact on politics of both Trump and JD Vance went on multiple podcasts. And not just like major podcasts. They went on like the podcasts hosted by comedians.
Yeah,
where it's like let's sit down and
it's another blow to the media, a blow to the celebrity endorsement class. Like, I love it.
Yeah, and Harris, I don't know if this would have helped her, but I think it would not have hurt it. It would not have hurt her as much if she did go on Rogan. And like, so did you hear about the demands that she made in order to go on?
Yeah.
So Trump was just like, yeah, I'll go to Austin. I'll sit in for 3 hours. Sure, why not? Whereas Harris was like, you have to come to DC.
Yeah, it's a fucking entitlement.
And we're going to do 1 hour.
I'm so glad Joe didn't cave to that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not being partisan. Like, everyone, we do it all the same. Whether if you're the next president of the United States, or you're just like some guy who wrote a book or did a good set that I liked or something like that, And
it's funny because Rogan even told Trump in that interview, he goes, "Hey, look, I'll treat her like a human being. Like I'll have a fun, open conversation. I want to get to know her, and I want to let the audience decide." So Rogan was giving her as much leeway as possible to like make a good impression.
Yeah,
she didn't take it.
Well, I don't see how it could have hurt her. I don't know if it would have helped. I cannot imagine how it would have hurt her at all.
Yeah. I just remember.
Yeah.
Who's that chick who pretended to be Native American?
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. How when she was running for president, she refused to go on Fox News. Yeah. And she was like, I refuse to go on a network that celebrates racism and bigotry and blah, blah. It's like, okay, you're turning your back on half the country. So,
I think that thinking is gonna. I mean, Democrats have to be like, we gotta do something. Like, we gotta connect with people. I mean, you're seeing it now. It's like, I think Musa Garza is talking about. It's like, there's more. Trump's coalition looks more like Obama's 2008 than Kamala's voting. Like if you had just looked at the coalitions, like who voted for who, you would have been like, oh, this is definitely a Democrat. Like in the 2000s, like this is a Democrat. There's no way this is a Republican. And it not only is a Republican, it's a Republican who won the popular vote.
Yeah.
Wild.
Quite a bit, decisively.
A lot, yes. Wild. All right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Fight the crits. We did it, Joe.
We did. So, by the way, is this your last episode for a while? Are we going to do another one?
I think we can do one next week.
Okay.
I think we can. I know we're doing another show, but we'll talk.
Yeah.
If not, then it is just because.
But I want to prepare the audience for the worst.
Yeah, I know you'll miss me. I'm going on my honeymoon. Yeah, it's not like it's a bad thing, but.
I don't see why you can't record.
I know, right?
Like, they don't have Wi-Fi in Italy. They don't have Wi-Fi in the Vatican.
No, they still live in caves and
in coliseums and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna start reaching out to some guests, much better ones than. No, I'm kidding. No. This is a fun episode, and
well, Trump fought the crits and he won.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye, guys.